Hi, my name is Per. I teach multimedia. This is a guide to JSON, and I call it the easy guide because it should be like a shortcut for you in order to understand what JSON is. In the video, you'll learn how to use JSON, how to present it on a web page, and even how to style the result so that it looks cool or you can get pictures, that kind of stuff. Let's have a look into JSON and what it is. Here I want to change and show you what JSON is really like. In JSON, you will always start with a curly bracket, and then you will have some key and value pairs separated by a colon, like you see it here, name, in quotation mark, a colon, and then a value. The next value will be added after a comma. So here you see age colon 30. So you could say that we are creating a little object here that would be kind of a person. And just in order so that you know that you can do this, you can also have arrays inside the JSON. And you do that in the same way as you create an array in JavaScript with a sharp bracket. So in this case, you can see here in line 5 that we have colors and then a colon, and then you'll see an array in sharp brackets starting, and then we have green, blue, and then some color from it's a hex code for a color. If you know a little bit of CSS, you'll recognize it right away. But this is then the way that you create JSON. But how can we use it? First of all, we need to have JSON somewhere. And in this case, I'll try to fetch my JSON from a website, and that is actually from GitHub. And if you go to GitHub, you can actually watch if you upload a file here, you can actually use it directly as JSON in your production. So it's a very easy way to get a, let's say, JSON server. So here you see the raw data, and this is the same object as we had before. And you can actually take the link to that raw data, copy it, and then save your link to the data in a file. And this is what you see here. And if I change to this file, you can see that that we have saved it in the variable called my data. Actually, I have to say const here because it's like a constant where I get some data, but it's just a link. And we need to fetch the data somehow and present it on our website. And here you can actually use a function in JavaScript. It's very easy to use actually. It's called fetch. And in this case, we go in and say fetch, and then my data, that is the JSON from GitHub. And then we use a couple of steps. The first one is the response step. You could say then response, and then you can try to return the response as JSON. We'll do that right away. So here you see the formula for that. Just write return response.json and then 2 brackets. Now the next step after the parentheses here is to do something with the data. So we can take the data and send it. In that case, you can write here data and then equals and greater than. This will kind of push the data somewhere. And now we can go in and actually use the data. So in this case, we can go in here and say console log data, and then you'll be able to see over here on the right side, if you turn on the console. If you don't know how to do it, you simply click F12, or you can say right click and investigate, and then you can go to the console, and then you can see it. And here you can try to send the data that we have here to the console, and then see what's inside our JSON object. And if we try to run it here, you can see that I think I'll just tidy up a bit. Here you can see the object to the right, and if we go in here and if we kind of click on this little triangle, you can see the different parts of the array. You can see that name is John, you can see that the age is 30, and you can see some colors here. And you can use all of these data in your JavaScript. If you can send it to a console, then you can certainly send it to somewhere in your HTML. And up here in the HTML part of my JS Fiddle, you see a div with the ID of result. So you could send this data to result. And let's just try to do that. Here we have result, and if we want to write something in JavaScript to a tag, then you can always use the inner HTML, and then you can kind of inject some kind of HTML to that tag. I know that a lot of coders would prefer to write document get element by ID. You can do that too, you will have the same result, but actually you can use an ID if you have used it correctly in your HTML, because there can only be one with the ID, but this is standard HTML, so using it should be like very easy. So you can just write here result.innerHTML, and then you can write something from your JSON array. So here you see it. Here you see the JSON array, and if you want to have, say, the name, then you will have to write data.name, and you actually see it over here already. You could also write, instead of that, you could write something like age. Now it will say 30. And if you want to add more to the inner HTML, then you can simply add a little bit of HTML here. So if we go and write in backticks, you can go in and write the HTML that you need. So let's say that we want to inject, say, an h2 tag. So write h2 here, and we'll end it too, so that we don't forget it. And here you can add the data. So if you want to inject a variable into your data, then you can write something like $, and then 2 curly brackets, start and end. And inside here, you simply write, for instance, you write data, and name. And now you see John in F2 tags here. Let's go in and see. Here you can see it. If we scroll a little bit, you can. Now you see that the H2 tag is here. So in this way, you can actually get a little bit of information from JSON and present it on your website. The next step would be to get the result from an array. You can see here that we have an array. We have some colors here, green, blue, and something else. So how can we get these values and present them in our HTML? Here you would actually need a loop. And in order for the loop to present what we have here, I'll just delete this, and then we'll create a loop for and then we'll have a counter. Let I be 0, because an array starts by 0, you know, and then we write that I should be less than data, and in this case we'll write data colors and length. And if that's true, you'll add one more to I. So now we have constructed our loop, and something can happen here. Let's see, I have an error. No, I haven't. It was just a minor accident. So I think I'll make this writing a little bit smaller, like that. Okay. Now you can see that we have this loop, but nothing is happening yet. But we could say results inner HTML equals, and in this case we want to append from the link, so you write plus equals, and then of course you can add a backtick, because then we can add a little bit of HTML. So in this case we could have a div starting inside the div and a div ending. And then we could have, say, a headline. Nah, we'll just take the colors out here. So in this case we could just write the names of the colors. So we will write here a $, and then a curly bracket, start and end curly bracket, and then data colors, and in a sharp bracket you will write I, because that's the counter from up here. And now you see it works already. Here you see the colors. So now we can do fun stuff with the colors, can't we? Why not say that we want this color inside a style? So we could style the div a little bit and give it exactly the color we are talking about. So you could write here style equals, and now we are creating dynamic styles by a JavaScript loop, so this is kind of cool, isn't it? So let's try to create the colors here. So we'll say background color, and then a colon, because this is just ordinary styling, and here we could inject our color by a little bit of JavaScript. So inside a $sign and 2 curly brackets, we'll write the color that we want. And actually what we want here is this color, so I'll just copy paste it. And if we go in here, oh, now you can see I have too many curly brackets, haven't I? What is happening here? Oh, this looks weird. I think this is correct. Let's see if it is. Yeah, now you see it, that we have the colors inside the div tag here, and the colors are actually taken directly from our JSON object online. So in this way you can actually add some styles to your HTML, and you can get it directly from the JSON object. And this is just an example that you can use every time you want to have things. So just to recap, we can add a little console log here, and then data, and then we should be able to say, yeah, now we get it 3 times because it's a loop, so every time the loops is running you'll get the object. But here you see our JSON object. Here you see the fetch that will go in and get my data. My data we have here, and that is the long thing we see here, pointing to a GitHub repo. And that is actually how you use JSON. And JSON is one of the most used formats for exchanging data between servers. So knowing data is a basic skill for any web designer. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for watching this video. If you like it, please subscribe to my channel or click on like. This is much appreciated if you do it. Thank you so much and have a nice day or whatever it is where you are. Bye bye.